Tonight on Reporting Scotland, a social worker who was struck off for failings in the case of murdered toddler Liam Fee says she's been made a scapegoat for wider mistakes.
All the blame seems to have been placed on me and nobody else has been held accountable.
Also in the programme, Celtic Football Club say they're appalled by video footage of fans chanting about the murder of Fusilier Lee Rigby. New figures reveal the number of Scots dying from Alzheimer's and dementia has more than doubled since the year 2000. A sky-high trial to help tackle the spread of woodland disease. And we'll be in Norway ahead of tonight's crucial Champions League qualifier for Celtic against Rosenborg. The mother of the murdered soldier Lee Rigby has called on Celtic Football Club to apologise after some of its supporters were apparently filmed chanting about his death. They recorded themselves before a friendly match in Sunderland. Celtic said it will take action if the fans can be identified. Our Home Affairs correspondent Riva Alderson reports.
Described as scum, these Celtic fans filmed themselves chanting before a friendly match in Sunderland at the weekend. Their chants were vicious insults to the memory of Fusilier Lee Rigby, hacked to death in a London street 4 years ago. 25-year-old Fusilier Rigby, a regimental drummer, was in civilian clothes when he was attacked outside of his barracks. His mother issued a statement through the charitable foundation which bears his name, calling the chanting cruel. She demanded Celtic apologise. In a statement, the club said it was appalled by the events which it said in no way represented Celtic or its supporters. Let us be clear, the statement said. In the event that any individuals are identified as being responsible, Celtic will take the strongest possible action. 2 years ago, Chelsea Football Club banned some of its fans after they were filmed racially abusing a black Frenchman on the metro in Paris where the club was playing. MSP James Dornan, himself a Celtic fan, has a bill before Holyrood which would make football clubs strictly liable for the actions of their fans in stadiums.
I think it's important that the club, A, take the moral responsibility, but also are given a legal responsibility to make sure that those fans don't behave in the ways that we've seen recently. And also what hopefully would do then is change the culture where people think that it's appropriate to go down wearing a club's football top and behave like an animal, which is what those fans were doing the other day. They shamed the club, they shamed their family, they shamed the country, and they shamed themselves with their behaviour.
Northumbria police made 21 arrests at the game, but despite requests from BBC Scotland, have made no comment about the offensive chants filmed in the city centre. Riva Alderson, Reporting Scotland.
Now, we know how Scotland voted in the general election earlier this year, but why did you vote as you did? Well, a new academic survey has set out to answer that question and has suggested that the two recent referendums on independence and the EU cast a long shadow over the general election in Scotland. Well, to explain, I'm joined by our political editor, Brian Taylor. Brian, the election, as we know, left the SNP as the biggest party in Scotland, but they lost ground. They lost 21 seats. And this study seems to indicate why.
Yeah, I mean, as you and I have found down the years, politics can be a fairly complex business. What we're doing here is the British election study, large sample survey, trying to find out the impact on the two general elections, 15 and 17, of the two referendums, the independence one and the European one. They reckon that those worked through, and they think that their sample survey indicates that's the case. Now, talking about, first of all, those who voted yes to independence and voted remain in the European Union referendum, broadly in line with the SNP position. They were pretty broadly loyal to the SNP in 15, and they stayed so in the subsequent general election in 17. Turning now, though, Jackie, to those who voted yes but wanted to leave the European Union. Yes and leave. 40% of SNP voters in this category switched to either the Conservatives or Labour in equal numbers by comparison with 2015. Look next at those who voted no and leave. Broadly the ultimate Tory position, although of course they campaigned for Remain. The Tories managed to pick up nearly 50% of Labour voters in this category and nearly 60% of Lib Dem voters. In other words, on the Brexit question, they were able to corral the concern about Europe and corral it in their direction.
So Brexit, a very big deal, but the issue of independence still holds sway?
Yeah, it does. I mean, of the two referendums. Brexit huge. It was the more recent one in the recent general election. The negotiations are well underway, but it seems that the more salient one in longer term Scottish politics is still the independence question. You look at the no and remain voters. The Tories also picked up around 20% of Labour voters in this category. In other words, they were able to pick up from no and remain and no and leave voters. The common factor, it's that no vote. The common issue, the big salient issue in Scottish politics remains the independence question.
Fascinating. Thank you very much indeed. Brian Taylor there. Well, meanwhile, President Trump says he believes Scotland won't vote in favour of independence because he said it would be terrible and added they just went through hell. Well, his thoughts came in an interview with the Wall Street Journal. President Trump also expressed concerns over the British Open golf tournament if Scotland did get independence from the UK. SNP MP Angus MacNeil later tweeted, suggesting the president's comments would actually be a boost for the cause.